Thanks for joining me, everybody. My name is Arden Carvalho here on the Slipper Still Fits. Excited to be joined by former Zag Mike Nilson. Mike, how are things?
Oh, life is so good. I'm so excited to be on the show.
That's great to hear. I love that. Let's start here. You probably are thinking life is good because your son, Wayne Carter Nielsen, is now walking on to your alma mater. Just how proud of you are you of your son?
Well, it goes so much far beyond basketball. He is just the kindest, just loving person. He's a really hard worker. And so to have those kind of skills and be able to help out such a great community like the Zags, it really is a dream come true. And it's funny because a lot of people think, oh, well, that's great. Maybe the coaches did you a favor. And I really think it's the opposite. I really feel like Carter's going to be a help out a ton
Yeah.
with a lot of the important stuff. Gonzaga has always valued leadership and culture and, being the kind of person that makes people better. And I think that's what Carter will be able to do. No one's expecting him to step on the court and be knocking down threes and playing in games. But I think what he'll be able to do in the locker room, in practice, on the team bus, he's just a great gel glue guy. And then also, I think it's going to be really fun because he's super smart, and so I think it'll help him out a ton on scout team.
Mhm.
He can learn systems and plays, really fast. He can shoot it. He can defend. So he'll be able to do a lot of stuff that will make him better in practice. And yeah, he's just excited to be part of the team.
Yeah, one thing fans need to realize is that Gonzaga really utilizes their walk-ons. Mark Few's always done that, like you said, with the scout team. And you yourself, you kind of grew in that role. What do you expect from him, like over the span of his career? I'm kind of unfamiliar with him, his game. I know he's a lefty, but like, what does he bring to the table completely? What did you see at Gonzaga Prep as well as, with Hooptown Elite on the Under Armour AAU circuit?
Well, we always talk about the controllables, and the two things you can control is your attitude and your effort. And I think he's exceptional at both of those. And so I know as a walk on, the hardest thing for me and the hardest thing I've seen, I've been at GU for over 25 years, really over 30 years since a player. And we've had a ton of walk ons make it, the Mike Harts and the David
Yeah.
Stocktons, Kyle Bankheads, and the list goes on of the guys that not only earned scholarships, but have broken the starting lineup. And I think to be able to do that, it really does start with the attitude and effort. It's really easy to second guess yourself, to lose your confidence, to quit. A lot of people don't make it because it's just as hard it is physically, it's that hard mentally. And so I think those are the things that Carter will have going for him is he just has a great attitude, a great work ethic. As far as his game goes, when he was younger, he played point guard all the way through eighth grade, ninth grade, I guess. And then when he became a junior, it was kind of a cool thing where he had to step up and play the four. It was unfortunate we had our two best players, our starting four and our starting five, tore their ACLs right before the season. And so Carter went from being a point guard to the starting four, and they ended up winning the state championship that year, which
Yeah.
was so cool.
Yeah.
And I think as good as it was for the team, it was even better for Carter because it learned him how to play physical, how to post up, how to rebound, how to do a lot of other things without your hands on the ball. And so I would say his game is, he can handle it well. He can shoot it. He's just really like a glue all around good player. He's going to make the smart, right play. He's really, really good at moving his feet and being able to stay in front of guys. That's going to be challenged here at the next level. It's a lot different
Yeah.
between, staying in front of a high school guy versus a Gonzaga player. Um, but yeah, I think his strength is his well-roundedness.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And if he's anything like you, man, Gonzaga fans are in it for a treat while he's there with the Zags. Speaking of yourself, you're one of the more unique Zags during your playing days. You mentioned a bunch of other walk-ons, but you specifically starting out as a walk-on and then turning into the West Coast Conference Defensive Player of the Year. How were you specifically able to gradually move up the ladder and it seemed like improve your game each season? What was the main reason for that?
Well, I think most people think about how do you get better on offense? Well, you get a lot of reps in. You got a lot of shots up. You play a lot of one-on-one. And I think what's funny is most people don't think about how do you become a great defender. And
Yeah.
a walk-on is the perfect recipe for it. When I was playing in practice, I might play defense for the whole practice. And so instead of one person might get that many reps in a year, I would get it in the course of a week just because you just get rep after rep.
Hmm.
One starter comes on and you have to get a stop, and then you might get a stop, and then the next guy comes on, and you're just playing defense. And, if you have any kind of grit, any kind of, determination, any kind of pride, what you do is you're like, I'm not going to let this guy score on me.
Yeah.
And of course, they're going to. And then you say, okay, well, moving my feet didn't work. Maybe I'll hit him. Maybe I'll pull the chair out from under him. Maybe I'll strip him. Maybe I'll try and block it.
Yeah.
And you just start finding ways to be able to make everything a little harder for someone. And so I actually feel like the reason I was a good defender was just because I was lucky enough to get all that practice.
Hmm.
And then combine that with I was part of a program that really celebrated it. My teammates were amazing. I remember guys like the Santangelos and the Richie Fromms of the world.
Yeah.
They're phenomenal scorers and players, but they made me feel like I was bringing just as much value to the team, even though I wasn't scoring. And
Hmm.
so if I were able to, help stop a guy from scoring, it was just as good as me hitting a big three for him. And so I think when you're rewarded for things and you're in a program that gives guys like me a chance, yeah, all you got to do is attitude and effort, and the rest is kind of, a little bit being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. You heard it here, folks. It really starts on the defensive end. If you want to stand out, it starts on the defensive end. That's what I kind of got from your answer there. Reflecting on the magical run in that 1999 NCAA tournament that really started it all for Gonzaga. What was it that made that team click and work together so well? And let's be honest, like a extremely unexpected fashion so quickly.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. It's not the great players that win championships, and we had great players.
Yeah,
But
of
if we're going
course.
to try and compete on athleticism, if we're going to try and compete on size, there's other programs in the country that might bring in more talent. I always love the idea of it's not the greatest collection of players, it's the greatest team that wins championships.
Yeah.
And it's just so fun because I still see a lot of those guys today. When you look at that Slipper Still Fits team, I've talked to almost every one of them in the last 6 months. I just talked to Quentin
Nice.
Hall maybe 2 months ago in the Bahamas. Maybe about 6 weeks ago, I talked to Axel Dench in Australia. Gosh, Santangelo and Floyd and Calvary, they're always around. I've been
Awesome.
from. I just talked to him a couple weeks ago. And so I think when you have that care for people and you have guys that are not just in it because they're trying to get theirs and make it to the next level, we really cared about the process.
Yeah.
I think that extra little bit helps. And of course, it's, you got to have the ball bounced your way. You got to hit some shots at the right time.
Hmm.
But I think what kept us together, but that kept the program going was we weren't unique. We weren't the guys that came before us. They had set the stage for us. When I came through, it was the Jeff Browns and the Jeff Goss and all of these guys that were gritty, tough-nosed dudes that played for each other. And so, gosh, well, that's what we wanted to do. And now it's been fun to see we're able to get people from all over the world that, maybe are a little more, could jump a little higher, maybe a little taller. And then when you have that teamwork, boy, I think the sky's the limit for you.
Yeah, the program has really grown lengths compared to your team, but it's cool to hear that you're still in contact with them. I love to hear that. And your former coach, Mark Few, he's going to be introduced into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in August. When you're going to be watching that ceremony, what kind of memories or thoughts are going to be running through your head about Few?
Well, two things. One is I was lucky enough to go back and attend the one where John Stockton was
Yeah, oh,
inducted.
that's right.
It's pretty special. I get to take my dad back there. And, when I first came on as a freshman at Gonzaga, one of the first people I met was John Stockton. I walked in the gym and I'm a walk-on redshirt freshman. I'm scared out of my mind to play with the guys. And then I look over and I see John there and I'm like, oh my gosh, if my hands weren't already sweating, now it was a whole nother level. And I didn't realize he played with us every preseason before he went back to the Utah Jazz.
Oh, wow.
And you think about, well, what really built Gonzaga, and I think it was him. I think he was the linchpin. He was the guy that taught us toughness. And when you have the best player, not just in the gym, but one of the best point guards in the history of basketball on the court with you, and they are the hardest worker, and they are the most selfless, and they're going to set the nastiest screen, and they're going to go for every rebound, and they're going to try and rip your head off. If that's what the best player is doing, and that's what you have to look up to, it just sets the tone. And so, I was so honored and just felt so blessed that he invited my dad and I to come back and be there for that. And I'm like, this is amazing. So now to have Coach Few in there,
Yeah.
and I get to go with my wife. And Coach Few has been more than just a coach. He's been a great friend and to me a great mentor. Just to see what he's done at such a high level. He's so kind to my kids. I wasn't sure if Carter was going to be able to walk on because of the personal relationship.
Yeah.
Coach Few has known him since he's a baby.
Right.
Came to his games, treats him like he's one of his own. And so I didn't know if that would work against him or not. But to have my son playing for such a great man is just really a dream come true. So I'm going to be sitting there and just honoring him, not just as a coach and a colleague and a friend, but as someone that's really impacted my whole family.
Very cool. Emotions are going to be running high there. And John Stockton's actually going to be one of the presenters for Mark Few at that ceremony. So a lot of Zags are going to be tuned into that and very excited to see it. Back to you a little bit. You spent 20 years as the director of performance and nutrition for the Gonzaga athletic department. During your time there, what did you really take away compared to your playing days? And then also along with that, what would you tell like an athlete today? Like, what's the most important tip in taking care of your body?
Yeah, I always love that idea of if you take two basketball players with the same skill set, it's you versus you. You can shoot, dribble, pass the same. You have the same knowledge of the game. Yet another version of you is a little more explosive, can jump a little higher, can run a little faster, is a little stronger, a little better balance. It's a no-brainer who the better basketball player is going to be. And all of those things I mentioned are all skills that you can work on. They're all controllables. And so what I would say to every high school or every college athlete, really everyone that wants to become their best in basketball,
Yeah.
you have to look at all those skills. And of course, they all have ceilings. I can practice a lot as being a great shooter.
Mhm.
My ceiling's probably not as high as Steph Curry's, but I can be the best version of myself. I think way too many people leave some potential on. They don't maximize their ability to improve their sleep, their nutrition, their mindset. Just a simple act of going to the gym every day is good, but then to have intention with every lift. And I think when you do that, you could totally not just transform your body, but transform your game.
Mhm.
I think, the advice I would give to my son Carter is I wasn't the best basketball player, but I think the reason why I was able to compete at a high level was I really took care of the physical component. And I think when you combine that physical component with the actual individual skills and the mindset, I think that it's a no-brainer. You're a better basketball player.
Absolutely. A little passion project that I noticed that you've been working on since 2019, hoopcommitment.com. I'd love to hear more about that or just stuff that you're working on since leaving the Gonzaga program.
Yeah, I started the hoop commitment as a way to be able to kind of not just give back to the basketball community, but for me to learn. I
Hmm.
always wanted an excuse to be able to call up the best strength coaches, the best nutritionists, the best mental performance coaches. And some of it might have been confidence. Sometimes I don't want to bug people. It's
Yeah.
kind of hard to call up the Kansas strength coach and be like, "Hey, can you talk to me and tell me for 45 minutes what you're doing to improve your player's vertical leap?" It's just not something you do. But if you have a podcast, then you can call up the
Yeah.
Kansas strength coach and be like, "Hey, can I interview you about vertical jump?" And I just found, man, I not only did I learn so much, but I built a lot of great friends. So, Dr. Ramsey's now one of my buddies because we just took the time to be able to reach out. And so when I ended up retiring from strength conditioning, retiring from Gonzaga, and now I'm doing financial advising,
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to do the same thing, not just give back to the community, but I wanted to be able to pick the smartest people's minds in the world of not just finance, but the world of health and happiness. And so it's really been a passion project of mine, and it's been really cool. I've had some cool full circle moments. Probably 15 years ago, I read a book about investing in the stock market that really changed my life. It was pretty powerful. And now, 15 years later, I have a podcast, and I just thought, you missed 100% of the shots you don't take. I reached out to his people and said, "Hey, any chance you'd like to come on my podcast?" And I got to interview him. And so that's been so fun to be able to, yeah, just be able to pick an area, whether it's real estate or whether it's shorting stocks or whether it's, insurance or any financial aspect, I can find out who's really smart at this and I can pick their brain. And
Yeah.
so yeah, check it out. It's called Compound Commitment. You can find me on social media at Compound Commitment, and it's just a journey of compounding wealth, health, and happiness.
Well, thank you for giving up some of your time for us at the Slipper Still Fits. I really appreciate hearing your perspective and hearing more about your life after Gonzaga. It's really different and but interesting. And along with that, man, I'm so excited to see your son Carter step out on the court for the first time. I can't wait to watch him grow through the program. So thanks for speaking with me and good luck to him.
All right, man. Go Zags.